Hello everyone. I haven't done a little video chat for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, so I just thought I wanted to do a little one before we come into the 4th of July weekend and move into stage 5 here in Indiana regarding our new reality that we're in. So when we come to church, we wear our masks, and I know that there's a great deal of debate and political brouhaha about masks and not masks, etc. What we do know is that they do provide some protection for ourselves and especially for those who are more vulnerable. And we've been mercifully treated here in this portion of Northwest Indiana and South County. We have not had a number of COVID fatalities. But that does not mean that the virus is not present. And it does not mean that we should relax our ability to protect ourselves and our most vulnerable loved ones. And so I would ask you to think about the whole notion of wearing mask at the liturgy as an act of charity, not as a statement one way or the other, but simply as an act of charity towards others. Because I personally wouldn't want to take the chance that somehow I would spread a virus that would lead to somebody's death. I don't think any of us want to take that chance. It's a big gamble to take. So that's one reason why when we come to church, we're asked to wear the mask. Now sometimes the priest doesn't wear the mask, or the deacon, because we're speaking to everybody. And we're usually then far removed from everyone at that time, like at the ambo or at the altar. But when we're here, generally, because of where we sit, etc., we do put our mask on during the opening hymn and during the liturgy of the word, as I go around and sprinkle people, and after communion, etc. And during communion, we have our mask on. So I just ask you once again to think about that as a kind of act of charity towards somebody. And it is a difficulty, I understand. It's not comfortable, and it's kind of a reminder that we maybe don't want to be reminded about, that we're living right now in a different time, a time that we'd rather not have to think about, but it is what it is. The other thing I would just like to review with everyone is some of the safety protocols that we have here at St. Michael's and that all the parishes in the Diocese of Gary are asked to observe in order to have a safe environment for people to come and worship. So one of the things you see is you see all these X's in the pews, and you see the yellow tape that separates pews, okay? And these X's in the pews are for people to sit. And it is for us to keep the distance, the social distancing of 6 feet between households. So if you live in the same household, then you would sit together, obviously, because you're all in the same household, living in the same house. But if you come with your aging parents and they don't live in your same house necessarily all the time with you, you would maybe sit in the same pew, but with some distance between you. And so the X's are there so that the hospitality ministers know where to take people. And so that's one of the things that is different about things right now is when we come into church, we know where we need to sit people in order to keep the social distancing that we're asked to do. So now we're going to take a little walk, because the place where you end up is here at the altar, because that's where we want to end up. We want to end up around the table of the Lord once again to receive his body and to give him praise. And so getting here, I know some people might be reluctant about what are the protocols for safety that will make you safe while you're here. So we're going to kind of walk backwards in a sense. So one of the things that you'll notice is on the floor, there is markings with red tape. And these, again, are 6 feet apart. And it's not like it's some sort of strict, regimented thing when a person's coming to communion or what have you, but it does remind us to keep some distance. So as we go back towards the hall, one of the things that you will notice that's a little different is that our baptismal fount, where we bless ourselves when we come in, has a lid. Okay, and the reason it has a lid is because though we have all the more recent technology for purifying the water and getting rid of the bacteria, etc., it takes a little time for the water to run through. And so in normal circumstances, it's not a problem. But we want to be extra cautious, again, with this particular virus because of its resiliency in really bringing, especially for older people, a great deal of pain and difficulty. And so we have the fount covered, so we're not blessing ourselves from the fount. But you've heard me preach many times about the importance of this opening when we come in and reminding ourselves with the waters of baptism about who we are. And so what we do now for the beginning of Mass, for the penitential rite, somebody takes this lid off for us, and we bless the water. We begin back here like we would normally during Easter time, and we have a short rite of sprinkling. So you're sprinkled with the purified water, and you're able to bless yourself with the water of your baptism as we begin. And then when we're done, we put the lid back on. Okay? So as we continue further, you'll see also when you come into church, these baskets. Because we used to pass the basket during offertory, which isn't a bad practice. It kind of reminds us of our need to support the works of the church. But we're not going to be passing the basket now because obviously we could very well be passing some bacteria on our hands that we're unaware of. So we have baskets as you come in the church, and we ask you to place your envelope in the basket as you come in or as you leave. And don't worry, the ushers keep good eye on it. Okay? But that's how we're doing our collection right now. So we'll go back further this way. If you come on a Sunday here in the gathering space, you will see hospitality ministers that have one-time use sheets for music. So the sheets for music is you get it one time, we ask you to take it home and recycle it. And the next group has all new fresh sheets that are given to them for music. Right inside the doors of the church will be other hospitality ministers that wait there to take you to your seats and to take you to seats. So there's some of the jokes that go around. Sometimes amongst the hospitality ministers and people coming is, I'll take table for two by the window. But it's really a good way for us to spread everybody out and to make sure everybody's safe. And we ask everyone to come through these south doors of the church in the hall here. And the reason we ask that is you'll see in the hall on the floor red tape again. And it's in increments of about 6 feet. And it goes all the way back to the doors over here. So we don't want people to crowd as they're coming in, just like when you go to Walmart, they space you out. We don't want people to be crowding because we want you to stay safe. And so this is why we bring you in this way, because if it's really raining, and you know we've had some rains recently, if it's really raining, we can pretty much get most people inside this hall to get them seated. So, but nobody has to wait out in the rain like if you had to come in the other two doors that we would normally use, or the chapel door, which is locked at that time as well. So we ask everybody to come to these two doors, and when you come in, you'll see a hospitality minister sitting here, and they will simply ask you for your last name and your phone number. And the only reason for it is because, God forbid, if something were to happen, we would be able to contact people and let them know that they need to be aware for their health. We have had no problems, but we just want to be proactive in that regard. So the information that's gathered here really isn't anything new because all of you are registered already, and with a phone number and a name. And so this is just one way of us helping to protect you if something were to happen. So when you come in, they'll ask you for that very simply, and they'll just write it down. That information goes in the office, stays in the office, and after 3 or 4 weeks, if nothing has ever developed, it gets shredded, so we don't keep it. Okay? So as you come in, you're greeted, we'll have your mask on, and you'll be greeted by the greeter here, and the greeter here will have for you a little hand sanitizer. Now I'm going to go get one real quick because we got them stored in another room here to keep them safe. And so you'll get a little hand sanitizer as you come in. And this is your church hand sanitizer. It's even got a little logo of St. Michael on it. And we ask you to bring this back to church with you so that when you come into church, before communion particularly, you sanitize your hands before communion so that your hands are sanitized. The priest washes his hands at offertory with soap and water at this point, and also sanitizes his hands before communion as well with a spray sanitizer so that his hands are sanitized, and the deacon's hands and whoever else is helping administer communion, their hands are sanitized too, so that we are protecting everybody as best as we can. And so then I always ask you to put this in your pocket, in your purse, in your car, bring it back with you. Don't stick it on the dashboard, not a good thing to do with these kind of products, okay? Keep them out of the sun, all right? Then I'm going to take you for a little journey to see some of the behind-the-scenes things. So one of the things that we are responsible for is to disinfect the church after each use. And so obviously there are different ways to do that. And one of the ways approved by the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, is a method and a chemical that's called QUAT. Sounds very strange, but it works very well. And so in here, you see some tanks that people wear on their backs and spray nozzles, and the disinfectant is here in the tank. And so after each Mass, after everyone has departed, they go through the church and they mist all of where everybody was at. The floor, the pews, the seats, the door handles, all the way down through the hall where everybody came in, so as to disinfect everything, as to mitigate as much as possible any of the COVID virus from being present. So this light mist sits on the pews for about 10 minutes and it dries, and the pew is disinfected at that point in time. So I think that pretty much ends our tour, and the reason I took you on this little bit of a longer journey this time around was to show you and to demonstrate what's going to happen when you come to church if you haven't been here yet. If you've been to Target, if you've been to TJ Maxx, if you've been out to the shoe store, if you've been to the beach, if you've been pretty much anywhere other than basic grocery shopping and things, it's probably time to start coming back to church as well. Granted, there is a dispensation from Sunday Mass, but not from keeping Sunday. You must still keep Sunday holy until August 15th. However, if you're able, you should come back. We've made it safe for you, and this will be the protocol that will happen in August as well. This protocol will continue until we're able to have a cure or a treatment for the disease that's reasonable, and or a vaccine that's discovered. And so one of the challenges I gave you early on was to offer a decade of the Rosary each day for the intercession of Our Lady, for the inspiration for those who are researching cures and or vaccines. And I think those prayers are very important, and you should keep them up. I would ask you to please keep them up.